The odds were impossible. Military analysts said it couldn't be done. One specific number, one specific time frame, and a challenge that defied every rule. This is the moment the underestimated soldier sniper's success rewrote military history forever. What happened in the next few weeks would completely stun the world's superpowers. In 1939, the Soviet Union launched a massive invasion of the tiny nation of Finland. The Red Army expected a total victory within a matter of mere weeks. On paper, the odds were a statistical impossibility for the outnumbered Finnish defenders. 100 Soviet soldiers stood ready for every single Finnish soldier in the field. Among the defenders was a humble farmer standing only 5 feet tall. His name was Simo Häyhä, a man the world would soon never forget. He didn't use a telescopic sight like his specialized Soviet sniper counterparts. He preferred iron sights to keep his head lower and avoid dangerous lens glare. The Kala front became a frozen graveyard for the invading Soviet Ninth Army. Temperatures dropped to 40 degrees below zero in the thick, unforgiving forests. The Finns utilized marty tactics to encircle and divide the advancing enemy, but it was the silent threat in the trees that caused the most terror. Simo would pack snow into his mouth to hide his steaming, warm breath. He froze the ground in front of him so shots wouldn't kick up powder. By the end of the first week, the Soviet officers were absolutely terrified. They realized a single ghost was dismantling their entire command structure alone. The Soviets refused to believe one man was causing this massive carnage. They assumed a whole company of elite snipers was hidden on the ridge. Simo's rifle was a Finnish variant of the standard Soviet bolt-action design. It was rugged, reliable, and perfectly tuned for the brutal sub-zero climate. He would wait for hours in the same position without moving a muscle. Patience was his greatest weapon against the impatient invading forces' movements. Entire Soviet battalions eventually refused to move down specific forest roads. To step into the open was to invite a silent and invisible execution. The Soviet command finally deployed their own elite counter-sniper teams. Their sole mission was to find and eliminate the Finnish White Death. This was the mistake Simo knew his enemies would eventually make. The reflection from their scopes became a beacon for his iron sights. He never stayed in the same spot after taking a crucial shot. He was a ghost, disappearing into the white before the bullet even landed. Desperate, the Soviets used massive artillery strikes on his suspected area. They were trying to kill one man with thousands of heavy shells. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. The Red Army sent in a specialized team to hunt the lone woodsman. They believed their superior numbers and optics would provide the winning edge. Simo watched them from a distance, hidden by a simple spruce branch. He calculated the windage and led with the precision of a scientist. 3 shots rang out in less than 15 seconds from the trees. 3 Soviet scouts fell before they could even raise their own rifles. The rest of the squad scrambled for cover in the waist-deep snow. By the time they fired back, Simo was already 500 meters away. This psychological warfare began to break the spirit of the invading troops. They started calling him Belaya Smrt, which translates to the White Death. Every snapping twig in the forest sounded like a sniper's rifle bolt. Sleep became a luxury that the Soviet infantry could no longer afford. The Finnish high command began to notice the incredible impact of his work. A single man was holding back the progress of entire motorized divisions. He was invited to headquarters to discuss his specific methods and tactics. Simo simply told them he practiced a lot and kept his cool. His rifle, the M2830, became a symbol of national resistance for Finland. It was a heavy, awkward tool that required immense strength to master. Simo treated the weapon with a level of care usually reserved for family. He cleaned the barrel every night by the light of a small candle. The Soviet generals grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of forward progress. They ordered a scorched earth policy to flush the sniper out of hiding. Large swaths of the forest were set ablaze despite the freezing cold. Simo simply moved deeper into the shadows of the unburned wilderness. He lived on dry bread and sugar cubes, to maintain his energy levels. He didn't build fires because the smoke would give away his position. His white camouflage suit was washed in wood ash to remove any scent. Every detail was calculated to ensure he remained a part of the landscape. One afternoon, a Soviet bullet grazed his cheek as he took a shot. It was the first time the enemy had even come close to his position. He didn't panic. He simply adjusted his mask and moved to a new hole. The underestimated soldier sniper's success was fueled by an ironclad will. News of his exploits began to spread to the international press corps. Reporters from London and New York wanted to see the Finnish hero, but Simo remained at the front, preferring the silence of the woods. He felt his job wasn't done until the invaders left his homeland. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. The Soviet Air Force was eventually called in to find the sniper. Low-flying planes buzzed the treetops, looking for any sign of movement. Simo lay perfectly still, covered in a thin layer of fresh morning frost. To the pilots above, he was just another hummock in the vast tundra. The tension on the Kala line reached a fever pitch in late January. The Soviets launched a massive frontal assault with tanks and heavy infantry. Simo focused on the tank commanders peering out of their iron hatches. Without leaders, the armored columns became confused and stalled in place. He recorded each confirmed hit in a small, tattered pocket diary. He didn't do it for glory, but to track his own technical performance. If a shot missed, he would spend hours analyzing why it had failed. His dedication to the craft of marksmanship was bordering on the supernatural. The Red Army tried using dogs to send him out in the brush. Simo used the wind to his advantage, staying downwind of the hounds. He led the search parties into deep bogs and hidden natural traps. The dogs eventually lost the trail in the swirling Arctic snowstorms. A new Soviet commander was brought in specifically to kill the sniper. He was a veteran of the Great War and a master of tactics. He set up a series of decoys using helmets on sticks to lure Simo. Simo saw through the ruse instantly and targeted the man holding the stick. The Finnish soldiers found hope in the stories of the White Death. If one man could stand against an empire, so could the nation. Morale soared in the trenches, even as supplies and food ran low. Simo had become more than a soldier. He was a living legend. He often worked in the gray hour of dawn and late twilight. The low light made iron sights more difficult, but he knew the terrain. He memorized the distance to every rock and tree in his sector. He didn't need a rangefinder. He had the map in his head. The Soviets began to use human shields to move their supplies forward. It was a desperate and brutal tactic that showed their growing fear. Simo refused to fire, showing a level of morality amidst the chaos. He waited for a clear shot at the officers behind the lines. Winter tightened its grip as the calendar turned toward the month of February. The snow was now several feet deep, making all movement a struggle. Simo's custom skis allowed him to glide where others sank and died. He was the master of the environment, and the enemy was its victim. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. By mid-February, Simo had surpassed every known sniper record in history. The sheer volume of his success was starting to baffle the experts. How could a man with no scope achieve such incredible long-range hits? The answer lay in his breathing, his heart rate, and his heritage. He grew up hunting in these exact woods since he was a child. The forest wasn't a battlefield to him. It was his childhood home. He knew where the ice was thin and where the wind would swirl. The Soviet soldiers were fighting a war. Simo was just protecting his house. The Soviet sniper finally managed to pin Simo down behind a fallen log. For 6 hours, neither man moved as the sun began to set. The Soviet sniper moved his head just an inch to check his flank. That was the only window of opportunity that the White Death needed. The bullet struck the Soviet sniper's optic, passing through to the eye. It was a shot that would be considered legendary in any other war. To Simo, it was just another necessary action to survive the day. He crawled away into the darkness, his heart rate barely even elevated. The Soviet propaganda machine tried to claim that Simo didn't exist. They told their troops he was a myth created by the Finnish government. Then the bodies of more high-ranking officers began to pile up daily. The myth was very real, and it was carrying a bolt-action rifle. Simo was promoted to the rank of sergeant for his incredible battlefield service. He accepted the honor quietly and immediately returned to the front lines. He didn't want a desk job or a position in the rear. He knew his presence in the woods was worth 1,000 men. The Red Army began using flamethrowers to clear out the sniper nests. The smell of burning pine filled the air for miles around the line. Simo used the smoke as a screen to move closer to the enemy. He fired from within the haze, a true phantom of the Great North. He developed a technique of cold bore shooting that was ahead of its time. He knew how the first shot would fly differently than the second. Most snipers need a warm-up, but Simo made every first shot count. One bullet, one mission, and another name in his small diary. As March approached, the Soviet pressure became almost too much to bear. They were throwing waves of men into the meat grinder of Kala. Simo was firing so often that his rifle barrel began to overheat. He had to use snow to cool the metal down between his shots. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. On March 6, 1940, the streak of the White Death nearly ended. A Soviet soldier spotted a movement in the brush and fired blindly. It wasn't a standard rifle round, but an explosive-tipped bullet. It struck Simo directly in the lower left side of his jaw. The impact was devastating, shattering his face and knocking him unconscious. His fellow soldiers found him lying in the snow, bleeding profusely. They said half of his face was missing when they picked him up. They thought the legend of the underestimated soldier sniper success was over. He was placed on a pile of bodies, assumed to be dead by the medics. But a soldier noticed his leg twitching and pulled him from the pile. He was rushed to a field hospital in a race against the clock. The man who couldn't be caught had finally been struck by luck. Simo fell into a deep coma as the war reached its final stages. While he slept, the Finnish and Soviet governments began peace talks. The Winter War was ending, but at a very heavy cost for both. Finland remained independent, largely due to soldiers like the silent Simo. He woke up on March 13th, the very day the peace treaty was signed. The first thing he did was reach for his rifle, which wasn't there. He looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. His face was forever altered, a permanent scar of his incredible sacrifice. He had survived an explosive bullet to the head at point-blank range. Doctors called his recovery a miracle that defied all medical logic. He spent months in the hospital, undergoing painful reconstructive surgery. He never once complained about the pain or the loss of his looks. After the war, Simo returned to his farm and his quiet life. He became a successful moose hunter and a breeder of hunting dogs. He rarely spoke about the war unless he was asked by a friend. He didn't want to be a celebrity. He wanted to be a farmer. When people asked how he became such a great shot, he gave one word: practice, he would say, with a slight, crooked smile on his face. He didn't believe in magic or luck, only in hard work and discipline. The underestimated soldier sniper success was built on a foundation of grit. He lived to be 96 years old, witnessing the turn of the century. He saw his country grow from a war-torn land to a prosperous nation. He remained a hero to the Finnish people until his very last breath. His story is taught to every sniper in modern military training today. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. Looking back at the technical data, his feat remains completely unmatched. No other sniper in history has achieved that many kills so quickly, and he did it all without the help of modern optical technology. He relied on his eyes, his ears, and his connection to nature. The M28-30 rifle he used is now a prized museum piece in Finland. People travel from all over the world to see the Death's Tool. It looks like an ordinary rifle, until you know the history behind it. It represents the power of the individual against a massive, faceless machine. Military historians still debate the exact number of his confirmed kills. Some say it was higher, others say it was slightly lower than 542. But the number doesn't change the impact he had on the battlefield. He stopped an empire with a piece of wood and a steel barrel. The Simohi Museum stands today as a tribute to his legacy. It showcases his gear, his diary, and the story of the Winter War. It serves as a reminder that size and numbers aren't everything in war. Skill, heart, and preparation can overcome the most impossible of odds. Modern snipers use his snow-in-the-mouth trick to hide their breath. They study his movement patterns and his use of natural camouflage. He pioneered the art of staying invisible in a high-tech world of sensors. His lessons are timeless, passed down through generations of elite soldiers. The underestimated soldier sniper's success is a masterclass in psychological warfare. He didn't just kill the enemy. He killed their will to fight. He made them afraid of the very air they breathed in the forest. That is the true power of a master sniper on the front. He was once asked if he felt regret for the lives he took. He replied that he did what he was told, as well as he could. There was no hate in his heart, only a sense of duty. He was a man of the earth, doing what was necessary to protect it. His story reminds us that the underdog should never be truly underestimated. Finland was a small nation, and Simo was a small, quiet man. Together, they stood against one of the largest armies in the world. They proved that home field advantage is a powerful force of nature. The white camouflage he wore is now the standard for winter operations. He showed that being a part of the background is better than armor. In the world of snipers, being boring and still is a life-saving skill. Simo was the most boring, still, and deadly man in the world. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. Let's look closer at the day his record was officially verified. The Finnish army sent an officer to watch him for 24 hours. In that single day, Simo took down 25 enemy soldiers with ease. The officer was stunned by the speed and precision of his fire. He didn't use a spotter, which is standard for most modern snipers. He did the spotting, the range finding, and the shooting all by himself. This required a level of multitasking that few humans can ever achieve. He was a one-man army in the truest sense of the phrase. His nickname, the White Death, was earned through blood and frozen steel. The Soviets actually dropped leaflets promising rewards for his head in 1940. No one ever collected that reward. Despite the thousands of men searching, he was simply too smart and too fast for the hunting parties. During the recovery from his injury, he had to relearn how to speak. The explosive bullet had taken away much of his ability to communicate. He practiced his speech with the same discipline he used for shooting. Witin Adir. He was speaking clearly to his friends and family. He never lost his marksmanship skills. Even after the massive facial injury, he continued to win local shooting competitions well into his old age. His steady hand and sharp eye remained until he was It was as if the rifle was an extension of his own body. The Simo tactic of freezing the snow is still a military secret. Not many people know the exact way he prepared his firing positions. He would spend hours at night prepping multiple spots for the next day. He always had an escape route planned before he fired a shot. He believed that a sniper's best friend was a solid, reliable pair of skis. If you can't move, you are just a target waiting to be hit. He could ski miles in minutes, even through the thickest forest brush. His mobility was the key to his survival against the Soviet tanks. The Winter War lasted only 105 days in total for the nation. Simo was active for 98 of those days before his major injury. That means he averaged over 5 confirmed kills for every single day. This is a rate of efficiency that has never been seen before or since. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke for him. He represented the Sisu of the Finnish Pipula, unique brand of courage. It means stoic determination, purpose, grit, and hardiness in the face of death. Simohi was the human embodiment of the spirit of Sisu. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. When the sun went down, Simo didn't stop working for the day. He would use the moonlight to scout for new Soviet supply lines. He would sabotage equipment and move trail markers to confuse the enemy. He was a saboteur, a scout, and a sniper all rolled into one. His diet of sugar and bread kept his blood sugar level stable. He knew that a crash in energy would lead to a shaky hand. He avoided caffeine because it would make his heart beat too fast. Every biological factor was managed to ensure he was the perfect machine. The Soviet snipers were often forced to stay in their spots for days. They didn't have the same level of winter gear as the Finnish troops. Many of them died from frostbite before Simo even found their positions. The environment was just as deadly as the bullets in the air. Simo once said that the forest is the best place to hide a secret. He treated his positions like sacred ground that no one else could see. He never showed his fellow soldiers where he spent his long days. He knew that the more people who knew, the more dangerous it became. His reconstruction surgery was one of the first of its kind in Finland. Surgeons used bone from his hip to rebuild the side of his face. He bore the scars with a sense of pride for his young country. He was the face of a nation that refused to be conquered. Even in his 90s, he could still hit a target at 500 meters. He would laugh when young soldiers struggled with their high-tech optics. "You rely on the glass too much," he would tell them with a wink. "Your eyes and your heart are all the optics you truly need." The underestimated soldier sniper success story is a lesson in focus. He didn't care about the politics or the big picture of the war. He cared about the patch of woods he was assigned to defend. By winning a small piece of the world, he helped win the war. The impact of his success changed Soviet military doctrine for decades to come. They realized they needed better training and better gear for winter. They stopped underestimating small nations and started respecting the lone soldier. Simo forced a superpower to change its entire way of thinking. He died peacefully in a veterans' nursing home in the town of Hamina. His funeral was attended by the President of Finland and military leaders. He was buried with full military honors in a simple, modest grave. The White Death was finally at rest in the soil he protected. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. Let's analyze the ballistics of the iron sights he used so effectively. Iron sights require a perfect alignment of the front and rear posts. At 400 meters, a human target is smaller than the front sight post. Simo had to use point-of-aim logic that few masters can replicate. He also accounted for the cold air density, which slows a bullet down. In 40 below weather, the air is thick and resists the bullet's flight. He knew intuitively how much higher to aim during the deep freezes. This was physics in action, performed by a man with a basic education. The Soviets tried to use counterfire by shooting at any puff of smoke, but Simo used a special powder that produced very little visible smoke. He also fired from deep within the shadows of the heavy pine trees. He understood that light and shadow were his most powerful allies. He often wore a white mask that covered his entire broken face later. But during the war, he just used a simple white cloth wrap. He would soak it in water so it would freeze into a hard shell. This helped to protect his skin from the biting, freezing Arctic winds. His success rate was so high because he only took high percentage shots. He didn't waste ammunition on targets he wasn't sure he could hit. Every bullet had a name, and he made sure it found its home. Discipline was the difference between a survivor and a casualty of war. The Finnish army gave him a custom-made rifle as a gift of thanks. It was a beautiful piece of craftsmanship with his name engraved in gold. He appreciated the gesture but preferred his old, battered service rifle. He believed a rifle had to be broken in like a pair of boots. He was a master of acoustic masking, using other sounds to hide shots. If artillery was firing, he would time his trigger pull with the blast. The enemy wouldn't even hear the shot that took their comrade down. He was a silent conductor of a very deadly and dark orchestra. The story of the underestimated soldier sniper's success is also about humility. He never bragged, never boasted, and never sought out the spotlight's glow. He was a servant of his people who happened to be a genius. The world needs more heroes who act first and speak very little. Today, Simo's name is synonymous with the word sniper across the globe. Video games, movies, and books all reference the legendary White Death. But the real man was much more interesting than the fictional versions. He was a man who loved his dogs and his quiet farm life. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. If you look at the map of the Kala River today, it is peaceful. The trees have grown back over the old trenches and the shell holes, but if you walk through the woods, you can still feel the history. The ghost of Simo Hii still watches over the Finnish. He remains the gold standard for every sniper school in the world, from the US Marines to the British SAS. His tactics are studied. Te Techtesimo. Method of environment-based concealment and movement. He is the founding father of modern stealth-based, long-range combat. The underestimated soldier sniper's success is a story of national survival. Without Simo, the Kala front might have collapsed in the first month. If Kala fell, the heart of Finland would have been wide open. One man with a rifle literally saved the future of an entire nation. He was once asked what he thought about while waiting in the snow. He said he thought about the farm and what he would plant in spring. He didn't think about the war. He thought about the life after it. That mental escape kept him sane in a world of constant killing. He had a special way of packing his snow hole to act as an insulator. He stayed warmer inside the snow than he would have on top of it. He understood the thermal properties of his environment like an indigenous hunter. He was a part of the Arctic ecosystem, not an intruder in it. The Soviet soldiers who survived the war spoke of him with great respect. They didn't see him as a monster, but as a force of nature itself. They were honored to have survived an encounter with the White Death. He was a legend even to those he was actively trying to defeat. His life is a reminder that the most dangerous man is the one with nothing to lose. He was defending his home, his family, and his very way of life. That motivation is more powerful than any political ideology or propaganda. Simo Hii was the ultimate defender of the Finnish homeland. As we approach the end of this story, think about the quiet farmer. Think about the man who stood 5 feet tall and changed the world. He didn't need a cape or superpowers. He just needed a rifle. The underestimated soldier sniper's success is a true human achievement. We should never forget the lessons he taught us about the power of one. One person can make a difference, even against the largest of empires. One shot can change the course of a battle, and the battle can change history. Simo Hii was the one that the world never saw coming. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong. The legacy of the White Death lives on in every quiet forest in Finland. The people still tell his stories to their children by the fireside. He is a reminder of what it means to be truly brave and truly skilled. His name will be etched in the annals of history for 1,000 years. The technical specifications of his iron sight rifle are still studied by ballistics experts. They find that his accuracy was at the theoretical limit of the weapon. He was squeezing every bit of potential out of a 19th century mechanical design. It was a perfect marriage of man and machine in the frozen woods. His survival of the explosive bullet is perhaps the most incredible part. It shows that he was meant to live and see his country remain free. He carried that scar for 60 years as a badge of his unwavering courage. The underestimated soldier sniper's success had a very lucky ending. We must also honor the other Finnish soldiers who fought by his side. Simo was the star, but he was part of a galaxy of brave men. They held the line when the world thought they would surely break. They are the reason Finland is a free and prosperous country today. The next time you see a snowy forest, think of the White Death. Think of the silence, the cold, and the man waiting in the white. He is a part of the landscape now, a hero of the northern lights. His spirit is as cold as the ice and as steady as the pines. The underestimated soldier sniper's success is more than just a war story. It is a story about the human spirit and the power of individual will. It shows that no challenge is too big if you have the right mindset. Simo he proved that the impossible is just a matter of perspective. We thank you for joining us on this journey through the frozen history of World War II. We hope you learned something about the power of the underestimated soldier. History is full of people like Simo, waiting for their moment to shine. Keep your eyes open and your heart steady, just like the White Death. The count stands at 542, but the influence is truly beyond any measure. He's the most successful sniper to ever walk the face of the earth. And he did it all for a small farm in a small country. That is the most beautiful part of this entire incredible story. Farewell to the man they called the White Death, the hero of Kala. May his story continue to inspire those who face impossible odds every day. He showed us that even a humble farmer can change the world's fate. The underestimated soldier sniper's success is a legend that will never die. The odds were impossible, yet the count continued to rise daily. 542 kills in just 100 short days. This was the impossible challenge of the underestimated soldier sniper's success. Military analysts predicted failure, but the ghost in the snow proved them wrong.